Trigger warning, this episode is going to tackle abuse of many forms, including emotional, sexual, and suicide. The whole episode had to be edited tremendously. It was recorded a few years ago. And now, what I know, I didn't know then. I'm realizing as I'm listening back to the episode that I talked about so many random tangents. I'll put the full episode on Patreon. I was just rambling, I think, because really what I needed was a hug. That morning, and I wish my family who decided to call me, knowing the time difference, and told me this bad news at 4 a.m. would have done, I think it was probably 3 a.m. I wish they had done differently, because they could have been more kids glovey about the situation. It messed up not just my entire day. It was months and months, maybe years even, of being in and out of something that I had thought that I buried in the back of my mind. My coping skills were not up to par. I don't think that's the term. Not that anything can really help you and save you from being in a vulnerable position and dealing in life, with life. Nobody knew, like I say in the episode, about the thing that I had been carrying since I was a child. Trust me, there were other things, but we're talking about this one in particular. And so I thought, let me just tell this person to give them an idea of how hearing about this person's death to me is like, at least, it'll explain how I reacted. So why I reacted, how I reacted. So and they were like, oh my gosh, it probably was a shock to their system too, but you called me at 3 a.m. So then right now, as I'm going over it, I'm thinking to myself, I wish there was enough sensitivity for somebody to think, oh my gosh, I triggered all of this in this person at 3 a.m. Why don't I check on them during the day and say, how are you doing? Or maybe tomorrow. Nobody has ever brought it. Well, I don't want to say nobody. One person called and broke the news to me. This person has never checked on me since then to say, how are you dealing with that? How are you coping? I'm sorry about that, or whatever. They did. It happened during that phone call where it was like, oh my gosh, I had no idea, or whatever, blah, 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 blah. Fine. But I'm just saying, am I wrong to say all of this? Am I being high maintenance to expect and hope for some empathy in a time like this? You don't have to call me and tell me this person died. What difference is going to make? I'm not going to get on a freaking plane and go to this person's funeral. They're not a super close member of our family. So that's out of the question. So why do I need to know this at 3 a.m. to begin with? What kind of a breaking news is this that I need? Oh my God, why am I getting so worked up? Damn. No, but I think that it's warranted. It's a working up type of thing. So I spent this particular day of the recording, which I ended up doing the recording that afternoon. Of course, I tell you about it in the episode, but that's kind of how the day started, and that's also, in hindsight, how I feel today. Another thing is the boarding school incident that I talk about that was triggered by the Paris Hilton documentary that I watched. I talk about that obviously in the episode. I was 13 then in boarding school with the cop's story, just to give you a little bit of a background. I was only 13 years old. So it's been, when they say it's been a day, or it's been a year, it's been a life. We're on Facebook and Instagram as the podcast. The name is Babbling Brook Podcast on both. So join us on there and let's hear your stories. Let's hear what you want to talk about, what you think of these stories and these experiences, how they've been told, etc. I really would like to connect. Also, you can find me on my personal social media at babalabrook. The blog that I keep mentioning is babalabrook.com and my YouTube is babalabrook. Everything's really under babalabrook. And if you don't know how to spell that, obviously it's here on the podcast thumbnail. The two hearts are bees. So it's babalabrook. I can't say enjoy this, but what do people say? I'll talk to you on the other side of this. Today is Tuesday, March 2nd at 16:40, meaning 20 minutes before 5 p.m. Wow, it's still early and I'm in bed. And it's 2021. Why am I telling you all this? I'm so used to doing that from my YouTube videos. I had almost enough time to drive to the terminal in Southern California for my off days, which are tomorrow and day after tomorrow. But I feel tired. The middle of my back hurts like I need a massage. I haven't taken like vacation time, so I feel tired. I think that the rest that I get is not enough. Out of the 2 days that I get, for example, tomorrow I still have 120 miles to drive to the terminal. So I'm going to do that in 2 hours, drop the trailer. For those of you who may not know, I drive a truck for a living and I live in the truck full time. So I will be at the terminal in 2 hours tomorrow, starting from whatever time I will have started at, and then do what they call bobtailing and go and do errands, which will take up the whole day. The last errand that I do is laundry. And this is at another terminal of the company, about 15 to 20 minute drive from where I park. Because where I park, they don't have a laundry room. So when I'm at that terminal with the laundry room, they only have 2 washers and 2 dryers. Heaven only knows how many people will be there at the time trying to do their laundry. Luckily enough, usually when I get there, there's at least one machine available for me to start. What did I do today or this week? By this week, even though today is Tuesday, for me, my week started 6 days ago. I just had a flashback of my morning when I woke up today and I got a message that there's bad news back home being in South Africa. And I texted back, who died? Oh, I don't want to go there right now. This has been in and out of my mind all day, and I found out about this around 3:30, 4 a.m. That's the thing with time difference. For me, it's 3 a.m., but back home, it's like 1 p.m. I don't really know how to feel about this. Somebody did die, and I it's not something that like also I think I'm PMSing, just as a sidebar, so maybe I'm reacting to maybe I'm like overreacting a little bit. Of course somebody died, so there's that, but there's like a much deeper emotional like deep dark skeleton, like abuse, secret, just like mind fucking, like character building, like family, just like fucked upness behind the story, but like, you know, like little girl self-esteem, like all of that, like secret, and then because nobody knows, then somebody tells you that, you know, somebody's dead, and your reaction is not what, maybe not your reaction necessarily, but what you say in response to finding out is something that nobody would have seen coming. But like, because you never, like, it was a secret, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, we're talking about death, oh, we're talking about like this deep dark crime, kind of like evil crime, that, and then like it's a lot. It's like, it was like like that moment was a lot, and I was running late. So, but I made it. I ended up being early because I'm dope like that. I just finished watching the Paris Hilton documentary, the YouTube exclusive documentary that she did. Gosh, we have a computer in the truck where you have to log when you driving, not driving, doing this, not doing that. Mine has not been working, and it's kind of frozen. It keeps turning itself off and shutting down and coming back on. I don't know what to do.
You have 0 hours and 31 minutes of remaining drive time.
Oh my gosh, it's been showing that I am on duty for an hour and a half, and it's still frozen, so I guess it's gonna shut down again.
Home. Messaging.
Change
Home.
to
Messaging.
Saver.
Home.
I have to fix that.
Messaging.
Because now I have...
Home. Messaging. You have 0 hours and 31 minutes of remaining drive time.
Well, the volume is off and it's still talking loud. My takeaway from the Paris Hilton documentary is the birth of Paris Hilton, not the real birth, but the other one of like Paris, that's her. It was when she was 15 years old, her family sent her to Utah in Provo. Well, that's like a town in Utah. I lived in Utah at some point. Provo, they have this school, kind of like a prison, I guess, is how the kids see it. You know, the schools that you send kids that don't behave to. So apparently Paris was sent to a few of them in other parts of the world, but the one in Provo, Utah is the one that made Paris. One night everybody ate dinner, went to bed, good night, I love you, and then in the middle of the night, Nikki, who's Paris Hilton's sister, heard, Nikki's telling this part herself, she heard screaming bloody murder or whatever, and it was Paris, and she heard voices. So apparently people came in and woke up Paris from her sleep in the middle of the night and basically kidnapped her. Like, there's nothing, well, there are lots of other things, but there's nothing I hate more than, I feel like there's nothing that screams emotional abuse, because I went through this, than catching somebody in the middle of their sleep and doing something to them. It doesn't have to be like sexual. It can be other things. Just like, don't catch somebody in the middle of their sleep, because that's a real mind fuck. Like, this person is not in their right mind. They're asleep. Or don't catch somebody on their worst day when they're exhausted and they had the longest day. I've gone through this. And then just before they go to bed, you do something to stop that. Because now you're getting their mind at a very interesting, vulnerable point. And that really bothers me. So they woke her up in her sleep, If you read my blog about my blogs and you search Calvin, Calvin, I went through a lot of that emotional type stuff with him, and I posted some of it. I didn't post the worst of the worst, but I posted some of it, and it's not pretty. There's like other things that are coming to my mind now. My mind is very alive today with these memories that are crazy. Maybe I need sleep. I know I do. I'll feel much better tomorrow. So they woke Paris Hilton up in the middle of the night. She was asleep. They freaking stole her, and she looked, and her parents were standing at the door of their bedroom crying, and she's just like, what's going on? Like, save me. She's 15 years old. And the parents, kind of like in a nightmare. And then she was whisked, for lack of a better word, away by these freaks, and they took her to Provo. And they kept her there for a year, for 11 months. That's a year. And she said people there were on like pills. I mean, can you say prison? Like mental institution prison. Like a psych ward of a prison. So they were putting pills. They lined up and they would give them pills. She doesn't know what they were giving her. And she would see that some people were like out of it. Some people were like on suicide watch and all kinds of things, she says. And she thought, man, I need to not take these pills. Like, I'm feeling tired. I'm feeling horrible after taking these. So she found a way not to take the pills. And people were telling each other. So somebody must have seen her not taking the pills and reported her. And the authorities, quote unquote, or abusers, found a napkin full of Paris Hilton's pills. Like, it's in prison. Like, there are no secrets. I don't know how I know this. I watch a lot of prison documentaries. Actually, I think I've watched them all now. So if you know of a new one, let me know. At Babala Brook, somewhere. And they put her on solitary confinement for that. I don't know for how long. 20 hours locked up by herself. Come on. She's 15 years old. Give her a break. In my opinion. And that's one of the reasons I don't have kids. Like, I'm not going to bring somebody here who's going to go through shit. Like, I don't know how they're going to turn out, and I don't know how they're going to be treated, and I don't know how she's going to take it. And I don't want to be responsible. I just can't. So while she was there, her escape was going in her mind and planning what she was going to do with herself and her life once she got out of there. That kind of shit will manifest because you are at rock bottom when you're planning it. You got nothing to lose. So your visualization is out of this world. It's like a matter of life or death, my humble opinion. So when she turned 18, I don't know. Okay, there's a lot of numbers. There's 15 years old, and then there's 16, and then there's 18, and then there's, I think she was 18 or 19 years old when she was with that Rick Solomon guy who did One Night in Paris sex tape, which I may have watched years ago. And what bothered me about it was, how people were like, oh, she put that out there. Maybe she did, maybe she didn't. I don't know. But what bothered me as myself and also as a female was how she would say, no, stop. Why are you filming it? Stop. So that's on the tape. If he were tech enough, he would have cut that part out or put the nose somewhere else in you know what I mean? But whatever. That's why I'm just like, okay, maybe she put it out, maybe she didn't. I don't know much about Hollywood, but I know about being a girl and having somebody, maybe a boy, making you do things you don't want. I don't know. That's not even what I meant. But I know, like, as a person, when you don't want somebody to do something and you're saying no, it doesn't have to be like sexual abuse. That's not what I'm talking about here. And she never said she was sexually abused. She's just saying, she was not a part of it. So that's where the character came from, of that's hard, and that voice, and that this and that whatever. She was just like, once I get out of here, I'm gonna be out of control. Like, not out of control, but I'm gonna be so me, out of touch with, like, nobody is gonna, I'm untouchable is what I'm trying to say. And I'm gonna be over 18 years old, so I will be responsible for my life. My parents won't be able to have people come and arrest me. Listen, I was in a boarding school. I'm not trying to tell that story, but I'm just going to hint at it. And one night we were sleeping, and we were woken up in the middle of the night by police in the dorm room. We had never had that ever happen before. I was in that boarding school for 5 years, but I think it was my year 3 when that happened. And I said I was there for 5 years, and I told my parents when this happened, and I was still there 2 more years. So welcome to my life, dude. Maybe that's why the whole thing resonates with me so much. It's not just about the Kelvin dude in my older years. So when she came out of there, she was just like, fucking hell. Like, take photos of me. I am going to be out there. I'm going to be the perfect person that people are going to love and accept. I'm going to be perfect hair. I'm going to wear my pink. I'm going to be this. I'm going to be that. And then she set herself a goal. I will be happy once I make $100 million. And obviously she made that and surpassed it. And now her goal is, once she makes $1 billion. She's also, one of the things on the documentary is that she tried to find the girls that she was in that school with. And they found about 5, I think. And they're doing a thing where they're going to out the school. Well, they already did. They mentioned the name of the school, and the school was contacted by the documentary, and they made no comment. So Paris and her people, they're doing the documentary kind of PSA type deal and whatnot. It's a whole Me Too movement. They showed like her best friend from then. Her name is Jessica. She looks cool. She's got tattoos on, nice haircut, very like androgynous. When you like look like a boy, and you're a girl, or you look the other way and whatever. She looks really cool, like a cool person. Got a nice like vibe about her, and she looks like somebody, you know, who would have been Paris's best friend. You know, I don't know. So one of those girls is really like crying. I think that was her roommate, Paris's roommate at the time. She's just like crying, still traumatized. I'm gonna say this, and please don't judge or do, but don't cancel me. This is the girl who's like, she was the most overweight of the group. When I saw that, I thought to myself, she probably still deals with a lot of it in a different way than the other girls are. Because as an inside fatty and all-time fatty all my life, I know that fat can be a symptom. Not ingredient, but like being fat, overweight can be a symptom of the amount of stuff that you're dealing with. It can also be somebody protecting themselves from the outside world. So layers and layers and layers of fat to protect people from reaching your heart to hurt it. And yeah, it was a kind of an emotional moment watching all the girls, including Paris, and she had to take a moment and go in her gigantic closet, you know, to take a breather and all that. I remember I lived in Beverly Hills at some point, and I used to follow her on Snapchat. I used to think to myself, my God, she's only a few blocks away from me. She lives in Beverly Hills. Like, it was, you know, for a little girl from South Africa in the farm, where we didn't have like a TV for a while, and then we had a black and white TV that was better operated, and the family only used it for news. To live in Beverly Hills was a very exciting point in my life. And still living in America is a dream come true. One of my wildest dreams. I really believe in dreams coming true, because I've had like some crazy things that I'll only dream of materialize in my life. And also, some of the girls said, we're back in Paris Hilton's documentary, that as a result of being so young when all of this happened and watching abuse, physical, sexual, emotional, all kinds of abuses in that quote-unquote school, I think they all suffer from PTSD. And it's blurred the lines within them because the parents who love them sent them there. So it's like, whoa, where does love end and abuse start? So it's caused a lot of survivors of that school. That's what they're calling themselves, which makes complete sense to me. It made them end up being in a string of abusive relationships. And there was a moment where I got to see Paris like you don't see Paris every day. Just be human and angry at her boyfriend and just be like, stop. Like, she said a line that really made me emotional. But then again, like I said, PMS, so I don't really know if it was that emotional. She was fighting with her boyfriend. The boyfriend was like, you left me 5 times today. She was like, I did 9 interviews today. Like, if I left you 5 times in a day where I did 9 interviews, you're doing great for yourself. Because what about, what? And he was like, kiss me right now, like, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, stop. Like, I'm performing in 6 minutes. Stop. I'm performing in 4 minutes. Like, I think she just wanted the vibe to be at least positive before she went on set. And this was her dream come true performance. It's a country in a show, whatever, that she watched since she was 15 years old. So it's kind of a big deal for her. And she said to him, stop, please. I'm doing the biggest performance of my life, or the biggest show of my life. Something about that moment, it really, even now, it just like chokes me up. I felt it. And he wouldn't stop. So I think that was for just a glimpse into some of her relationships. I mean, I don't think she's no longer with that person. Person is always getting engaged to some other dude. Whenever you see an interview, I haven't seen that many interviews of her, but whenever I see one, she's introducing her boyfriend, she's always in love or engaged to a different person. I mean, listen, she's looking for love. I get it. And she says she doesn't sleep at night, maybe 3 hours if she's lucky, and she'll wake up 5 times in those 3 hours or something like that. She has nightmares that she's being taken away. She said almost every night. I don't know how much therapy she's gone to, if she has, but I think that she needs it. And she hadn't been on vacation since she was 15 years old by the time of this documentary being filmed. The documentary was filmed, I think, 20 years since she was 15. But I think at the end of the documentary, she was on vacation with a boyfriend. I don't know if it's the same one or whatever. I don't know. There was a guy there who was, I guess, semi-naked. So, and that was the drive. She just built this character and she kept going. But doing the interview with the girls from that school brought back who she really is. She was like, the girls were like, when they watched The Simple Life, and for those who may not know, The Simple Life is a kind of documentary type series with Nicole Richie, who's the daughter of Lionel Richie, and Paris Hilton. They were best friends at the time. So they did that, and they were pretending like they don't know anything about The Simple Life. What's Walmart? Is that like a store that sells a lot of wall stuff? That wasn't the documentary, otherwise I never would have known. And I don't know how to clean. I've never washed a dish in my life before. So the girls from the school were like, we looked at that and we're like, this cannot be real. Like, we were in prison together with this girl. We were forced to clean everything every day. She knows how to clean. Like, she knows how to use a sponge and a mop and a this and a that. And they were like, also your voice was never high pitched. She was like, yeah, huh. She knows that that's not her real voice because her normal voice is more deep. When she does some interviews, she would have like her normal voice. But she says, just doing the interview with those girls and having that reunion, it reminded her of like where she came from and that time. And it's a very confusing feeling for her because she loves like her life now, but she I think she would like to marry the two people. Not like be married to them, but make them marry each other. So yeah, that's all, folks. This ended up being a really long episode. Hopefully I'll be able to like cut out some parts. I don't know. And if I end up not cutting much of it, I hope you will have enjoyed it. And thank you for listening. I will talk to you again next time. Find me on all social media at Babala Brook. I have a little YouTube channel, youtube.com/Babala Brook. Everything is Babala Brook. And it'll probably be linked to here on the show notes and also on everywhere. And of course my blog, which is my baby of more than 10 years. Thank you very much. I will talk to you next time. Please rate and review. 5 stars only. Thank you very much. Goodbye.